unpacked the ancient diet behind the world's longest living people. What if I told you that the secret to living past 100 isn't locked behind expensive supplements, trendy diets, or gym memberships? What if it's actually been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years? The answer lies in five specific regions around the world where people routinely live to 110, 120, even beyond. And they're not doing anything complicated, they're just eating like their ancestors did. Today, we're revealing the exact foods that are adding decades to human life and why modern medicine is just now catching up to what traditional cultures have known forever. Let's start with the most shocking discovery. Researchers studied over 100,000 people in the blue zones. That's what scientists call these longevity hotspots. And here's what blew their minds. The longest living people on Earth weren't eating steak. They weren't doing keto. They weren't even eating that much protein at all. They were eating beans. In Okinawa, Japan, people eat beans almost daily. In Sardinia, it's the same story. In Costa Rica's Nicoya Peninsula, beans appear in nearly every meal. And these aren't people who have bad genetics and somehow survive anyway. These are people with remarkably low rates of heart disease, cancer, and Alzheimer's. The reason is almost too simple. Beans contain something called resistant starch, along with fiber compounds that your gut bacteria absolutely crave. When your gut bacteria eat these compounds, they produce something called butyrate. And butyrate, it's like a reset button for your entire digestive system and immune response. But wait, there's more to this story. The second pillar of the ancient longevity diet is something that modern culture has completely demonized: whole grains. Not the processed bread you buy at the supermarket, real whole grains. In Mediterranean regions, people have been eating barley, farro, and spelt for over 3,000 years. These aren't trendy, they're just what they eat. Here's the mind-blowing part. A study tracking over 300,000 people found that those who ate whole grains daily had a 20% lower mortality rate across the board, not just from heart disease, from everything. Cancer risk dropped, dementia risk dropped, even accidental death rates were lower in whole grain eaters. Why? Because whole grains contain something modern medicine overlooked for decades. They're packed with compounds that reduce inflammation at the cellular level. Inflammation is the silent killer behind most age-related diseases. Your body's immune system gets stuck in overdrive, attacking healthy tissue for decades until one day you get the diagnosis. But we're not done yet. The third secret is olive oil. In Mediterranean regions, people consume olive oil like water. Not tiny drizzles, we're talking 3 to 4 tablespoons per day. And before you panic about calories, listen to this. People in these regions don't get fat. They don't develop metabolic disease. In fact, they have some of the lowest obesity rates in developed countries. The reason shocked even the researchers. Olive oil contains polyphenols, powerful antioxidants that actually reprogram your fat cells to burn energy instead of storing it. But more than that, they reduce inflammation markers in your blood more effectively than most pharmaceutical interventions. A landmark study called PREDIMED followed 7,400 people over 5 years. Half ate a Mediterranean diet with added olive oil, half ate a low-fat diet. The olive oil group had a 30% lower risk of heart disease and stroke. Not a small difference, a massive, measurable difference. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The fourth element that ties everything together is something you probably don't think about: fermented foods. In Asia, Japan specifically, fermented foods have been central to the diet for millennia. Miso, tempeh, natto. In Europe, it's sauerkraut and kimchi. In the Americas, it's traditional fermented corn preparations. These aren't fancy superfoods that cost $30 a jar. They're basic, preserved foods that happen to contain billions of beneficial bacteria. When you eat fermented foods, you're literally inoculating your gut with organisms that produce neurotransmitters, regulate your immune system, and control how your body processes food. Scientists discovered something wild recently. People who eat fermented foods have dramatically different gut bacteria than people who don't, and the difference showed up in their blood work. Less inflammation, better cholesterol ratios, improved blood sugar control. all from eating foods that cost cents to make. But here's the final piece of the puzzle, and this one might be the most important of all. The longest living people on Earth don't eat in isolation. They eat with family, every single day, multiple generations around one table. And the science behind why this matters is staggering. Loneliness increases mortality risk by 26%. But shared meals? Shared meals reduce inflammation markers by up to 15%. There's something about the ritual, the connection, the act of eating together that literally changes your biology. And this is where modern culture has completely failed us. We eat alone, in cars, at desks, while working, while scrolling. We've optimized food for convenience while destroying the one thing that actually makes it medicine: community. So here's what this all means for you. You don't need to move to Okinawa. You don't need to become vegetarian overnight or make drastic changes. You need to do one simple thing: eat like your great grandparents did. More beans, more whole grains, more olive oil, more fermented foods, and most importantly, eat with people you care about. The people living past 100 aren't doing anything revolutionary. They're just eating real food slowly together, and their bodies are responding with decades of extra life, disease-free decades where they're actually functional, actually present, actually living. That's the real secret. Not a pill, not a protocol, just food, real food, the way humans have always eaten. And if you want to understand more about how ancient wisdom is being validated by modern science, there's a deeper dive waiting for you, because this is just the beginning of what we're discovering about how our ancestors figured out health thousands of years before we invented medicine.